Okay, very good. Um, Let me go ahead. I'm going to read. I had Nancy's office sent over a bio to, and I wanted to read that. And she's got so many interesting aspects to her biography. I just wanted to read the whole thing, and then when I was reading it, some questions came up for me about connections. She talks a little bit about her own background as a student, which we have a lot of educators on this call, hopefully, and I think it's an interesting connection for teachers to make with some of her path along to where she is now. So Nancy Metayer Bowen is a distinguished public servant and the first Black and Haitian American female commissioner of Coral Springs. Metayer Bowen was elected in 2020 and reelected in 2024. On December 4th, 2024, Metayer Bowen was appointed to serve as vice mayor by her fellow commissioners. Metayer Bowen's dedication to public service spans a notable career addressing a wide range of issues from environmental advocacy to disaster relief. Before her role on the Coral Springs City Commission, she led environmental justice efforts across the state of Florida, focusing on enhancing community resilience. Her political journey began in high school, where she served as her school's president of the Student Government Association. As an environmental scientist and former member of the Broward County Soil and Water Conservation District, Nancy has applied her strategic expertise across various government agencies and nonprofit organizations. Her work has been instrumental in addressing water crises and responding to major natural disasters, including Hurricanes Irma, Michael, and Dorian. Her commitment to improving environmental conditions, water quality, sanitation, and public health is reflected in her extensive professional experience. Nancy's vision for Coral Springs includes making the city a leader in sustainability and resilience. She is dedicated to supporting small businesses and exploring opportunities in solar manufacturing, technology hubs, and other community industries. Guided by core values of community service, philanthropy, and stewardship, she seeks to amplify the voices of all community members and work towards a better future for Coral Springs. In addition to her role as vice mayor, Nancy serves as a commission liaison to several committees, including the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, Broward League of Cities, and the Broward County Climate Change Task Force. I didn't read all of those. She's also a member of the Utilities, Natural Resources, and Public Works Committee, a Florida League of Cities Legislative Committee. She also serves on the board of directors for ICLEI USA, a non-governmental organization that promotes sustainable development. Nancy holds a Bachelor of Science from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University at FAMU and a Master of Health Science from Johns Hopkins University. Her achievements have been recognized through awards such as Top 20 Under 40 by the Haitian American Chamber of Commerce, the United Nations Clean Water Advocacy Award, and induction into the Clio Institute Leadership Circle. She is also an executive board member of Avance Ansam, I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly, and Friends of the Earth, FOE. Nancy was, I, Nancy, it occurred to me to invite her to this event when I ran into her, interestingly enough, at the Climate Youth Summit in the fall. And she started telling me about some of the projects that she was doing in Coral Springs. I said, well, we definitely need to have you on and talk to some of our educators and about some of the fantastic work that you're doing there. And maybe do a little brainstorming with them about ways that they can get their students involved in more local government environmental work. So Nancy, it's great to have you here. And I'm going to let you go ahead and I don't know if you've got a PowerPoint, but it's if you want to share anything.
I do not have a PowerPoint. I was hoping that this would be more of a conversation. So,
Sure.
hi, everyone. Good evening. I know that everyone is coming off of a long weekend. So, thank you for joining me on a Tuesday night. First and foremost, I feel like I'm with family, folks talking about the environment, sustaining the environment, are friends of mine. Thank you so much, Scott, for that great introduction. It's really hard to sit through your bio sometimes. You're like, but I appreciate it. Again, everyone, I am Vice Mayor Nancy Metayer Bowen, and I have the honor and privilege of representing the beautiful city of Coral Springs, where I get to call 135,000 residents my boss. And so, for many of you all, I think I've ran into a few folks on this call from one end to another in this environmental movement, but my passion really lies on making sure that when we talk about the environment, we also think about it from an equity lens and making sure that when we talk about just transition, that everyone's a part of that conversation. We know that climate change is here, that climate change it's inevitable that is going to impact us, but how it impacts individuals, it sometimes impacts folks more than the other, right? More severe than the other. And as you all, I know many of you have been watching, we've now entered hurricane season. Yay. Well, in a couple of days, but we are scheduled to have about 10 extreme weather events, right? And so we are bracing ourselves here in Florida. And when we talk about climate change, we talk about education, we talk about affordable housing, we talk about all of the things because it's not a singular issue. And really, on this call, I really want to talk about how, as a collective, we can work together, making sure that our students are well prepared and versed when they are addressing climate change, whether it's from a policy standpoint, from an advocacy standpoint, and or from an education standpoint, because we need everyone in this fight to making sure we're addressing climate change in a way that's palatable, in a way that's approachable, in a way that's accessible. And looking forward to this great conversation. So I'm going to start off by sharing some great work that we're doing in Coral Springs, not saying that we're stopping there, but ways for us to enhance and making sure that sustainability is at the forefront. Under my tenure in 2020, we actually established the first ever sustainability office, and I had the honor and privilege of hiring the first ever sustainability manager. And within that role, we've been able to bring a composting program, create a climate action plan, and really divest from fossil fuels. We actually were investing as a city in fossil fuels. And when I saw that, I said, this is something, if we're going to be serious about sustainability, we need to make sure we put our money where our mouth is. And so we pulled our funds from ExxonMobil, and we haven't looked back ever since. And so, with that being said, we have an amazing sustainability committee where we use that as an advocacy or an ambassador role. We have been using them to help us not only collect compost in our city, but also create a dialogue with their neighbors and showing folks how to properly compost. As you all may know, we have a trash issue in Broward County, well, pretty much in the state of Florida. We are running out of landfills. And so, what does that mean? That means we have two options. It's either we sell our trash to third world countries, which they're no longer accepting, or we are putting our trash on a train and transporting it to central Florida, northern Florida, where there is larger landmass. And as we are transporting our trash, what does that mean? It means it's passing through low income neighborhoods with that stench and that garbage, and it's being dumped in areas close to proximity of Black and Brown communities. So it's an environmental justice issue. So I've had the honor and privilege of sitting on this board and really raising the concerns around that and actually working with maybe our school districts to really kick off a pilot program around composting, around recycling properly, because the issue is we have a high contamination rate. I can speak about Broward because I know Broward, contamination rate in Broward, and making sure that all 31 municipalities are on board. And so, where do you all play in all of this, right? As educators, first and foremost, our city was able to kick off a recycling right program. This has actually decreased our contamination rates from 20 to 30%. in comparison to the 60-70% we were seeing about 20 years ago. But that took a lot of money around marketing, a lot of money around investments. We started going out and educating folks and examining the recycling bins, and folks who recycled correctly got a $50 gift card. Could you imagine that? And the contaminant, the feedback and the participation around that program was so successful that we had to stop because people were beginning to recycle correctly because they wanted that $50 gift card. And so we have to educate folks in that aspect around our plastics, around recycling correctly, and decreasing what goes into our waste to energy plants. And then the organics need to come out of that too, because they contribute what after agriculture, waste is the landfills are the second most producers of greenhouse gases. And that's why I went into trash. So that's one initiative that we're working on, and that we're looking to have more educators participate and support us and come to the Solid Waste Authority and become partners in seeing how we can educate our young folks on how to properly recycle carefully. It's very much so like the slogan. Remember, what is it? The bear, don't start fires. I will never forget that because as a child, that was ingrained in my mind. No fires in our forest, or Dare, or Captain Planet. Like, we need to bring all those educational components so our young individuals will know the impacts and understand what it means to be a steward of the earth. I also want to share with you all, as educators, you all have a say on the policies that are implemented on your school and on your district. We have been working, I know, very closely with Sarah Leonardi, one of my favorite school board members in Broward County, to convert some of our schools to solar run schools and our buses into electric or hybrid buses. And that is something that there needs to be a lot of advocacy and push for. And folks on this call, who are the closest to our students, who are the closest to administration? You all are. And this is a great way for us to really push our leadership into this particular direction and really show the cost savings. We know that across Broward County, there is going to be a deficit, and not paying for electricity and being able to reduce the amount of waste will then decrease the amount of funds that will go to transporting trash and i.e. Electrical costs. So these are not only cost savings, but also great for the environment. And then the last piece I live for you all is curriculum. We have such amazing places for us to educate our students. The Climate Summit, Youth Summit, was a great starting point that I love Broward County was able to initiate and see all of the great projects and what our students are working on, but also in the classroom. One of our schools in Coral Springs is a environmental school, which is Sawgrass Middle School. There we are creating a pathway right into the Sawgrass, and we are partnering with the Sawgrass Nature Center and creating a curriculum for individuals who want to be environmental scientists or go into the Marines or anything environmental. And so, really creating magnet programs around the environmental sciences is a next best step. And I'm happy to connect you all with the principal there, and how they were able to get started and how they were able to craft that curriculum and work with the Sawgrass Nature Center. So that's my presentation for you all. I just really wanted to share a little bit of what we've been doing, how we've been doing it, and why collaboration is so important. Now, this is the fun part. This is where we dialogue and have a conversation, and we pick each other's brains and ask how we are able to enhance what environmental sciences or the environment curriculum may look for each of your school districts or you as an individual. So the floor is yours, Scott.
Thank you, Nancy. That's wonderful. Great overview of a number of the projects you're involved with. Why don't we do this? Yeah, Susan. Oh, those are clapping hands from Susan. If you've got a question or a comment, why don't you either, if you're we can see your picture, you can just raise your hand, or if you've got a question to ask, like Susan, indicated that she raised her hand. Susan, why don't you start us off?
Mostly want to say thank you to Nancy, and I want to know where she gets her energy and can organize her time to juggle so many things so efficiently. But that's an aside. That's for a conversation over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, whichever of those is how you do it. Um, so the question that I have is, you're very active with the Broward Solid Waste Authority as
I
well.
am.
And I think that's one item I wasn't sure if that was in your bio or not. And on this call, we have Dr. Julie Long, who's been attending the
Mhm.
executive committee meetings. And we also have Dr. Jody Berman, who's very active, and also Denise McFall, active with the Green Schools campaign that we have through the Climate Reality Project and the Broward Junior team. That was a very long wind up for the question. Um, Tomorrow morning, we're going to take a tour. Some of us are going on a tour of North Broward Prep to see their cafeteria and their composting and recycling program, to see how we might be able to then have that as a sample program to be replicated in other schools. And my brain explodes. I come up with the idea of, okay, let's take all these awesome programs in all these schools and replicate them everywhere. But I guess we can't really do that, right? It's but can you give us an idea of how does your brain work about how to get that replication started? What would be the first step to try to share, hey, I just saw this really cool thing in this school and I want to spread the word. How would one get started?
That's a great question. And thank you for that. And thank you to all of you all who are going to North Broad Prep to get that experience. So first, I would put together a guide, a step-by-step guide on how they do this process and if it is replicable. And based on this guide, I would then bring it to your school board member. Your school board member is the one that is going to be able to implement and get and provide staff with direction. And this is the hiccup part with bureaucracy. By the time it gets to the school board to staff, that can be a year and a half for us to actually get it implemented, excuse me, implemented. And so you have to create a step-by-step guide that is easy, quick, and can be done from various grade levels. The It doesn't have high capacity because the first thing that staff is going to say is, do we need to hire anybody? And two, what are the cost savings? You need to show how this is going to directly impact the school board's budget. And find your champions. Find who you can whip votes for on the school board to even be able to start this conversation. I could name a few for you. You have Vice Chair Sarah Leonardi. You have Chair Debbie Hickson. You have school board member um, Jeff Holness. You now have school board member Rebecca Thompson. And then you have, um, oh, what's her name? Um, she's out of Hollywood. She's great. I'm
Mara
drawing a blank
McCarthy
right
Bowman.
now. Mara.
Mara, Mc,
Yes, yes,
Mara.
Mara. Yes. And so those are your champions right there. And then get them and whip them and then give the direction to staff. But the most important piece is making sure you create a guide that can be replicated across demographics, across resources from school to school, because we know there is a disenfranchisement across our schools, across Broward County, and what cost savings is attached to this composting program.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And
Okay,
I can't wait to see it happen.
Julie, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Scott, for organizing this. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. This is really, really exciting. I have several comments just from your opening remarks. One of which is you said you got the city of Coral Springs to divest in fossil fuels. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering if you could expound on that and tell us how we can do that in our own municipalities. The other thing you said was you're working with Cyril Leonardi on some solar schools. And I'm wondering if you would be able to share which schools, where are you in that process? How can we replicate that? How can we get that going? Um, are you getting uh, are you working with FPNL on that? I'm very curious about that. And yeah, I think I also just Coral Springs is a in Broward County a relatively affluent community.
Mhm.
Um, so you have your schools are, they're the schools that people want to move to Coral Springs because they can get their kids in that school district. But I see other areas in Broward County where the public schools are really like uh, poor stepchildren. And those schools don't get programs. Those kids aren't getting this information. And I think it really troubles me. And I'm wondering how we can reach out beyond necessarily our neighborhood schools, which may be doing fine, to those public schools that are struggling and need leadership such as you're providing. So, and I'm going to shut up and let you try to answer some of those questions, but thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to tackle the first one. So I sat on the financial advisory board when I first got elected. And the first thing I asked is I wanted to see statements and I wanted to see who, where, and what we're investing in. And when I saw ExxonMobil, I said, absolutely not. This is not what we're doing here. And so I was able to, this is a trend throughout the US. I saw many, I'm members of many local, uh, uh,
And
I would
sorry,
say local progress, elected officials.
Nancy, sorry, I'm going to interrupt
Oh,
you for a
did I
second.
lose you?
We're losing you a little bit here. Why don't you go ahead? I think you got your picture back here.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go off camera so I can save my bandwidth. Can you hear me? Perfect. I'm gonna start all over again. I sat on the financial advisory board when I first got elected, and the first questions I asked is who, what, where, what are we investing our dollars in? And staff was able to, hello?
Oh, we can hear you. Oh, we might
Okay.
lose.
Staff was able to provide that information for me. And I saw ExxonMobil was one of those stocks that we've invested in. And I brought it back to the committee and said, hey, if we're going to, and I formulated my talking points, how they knew they were contributing to climate change and all of the things. And thank goodness I didn't get all the votes. I didn't sway everybody, but folks understood the importance of divesting and we voted to not divest in that portfolio anymore. And that's how that happened. If that was as easy, I thought it would be a harder lift, but it wasn't. That may not be the same with many cities. I'm not sure many other cities have financial advisory groups. So my first thing.
Oh dear, I think we just lost her. Oh, here she comes. Nancy, you just dropped. You're talking about the,
Yep, I'm back. I'm
okay,
sorry.
thank you. Sorry, go
I
ahead. You were saying about, the
And
city, go ahead.
yes, go and ask go ask your finance director for your portfolio or where you are investing your dollars in. That is public records. You can make a public record request. That's first. And then two, bring your concerns to a commission meeting. Unfortunately, Broward County, it's hit or miss with certain commissions. So I would recommend a long-term strategy on how you approach each uh, elected or each city council because you may not have the votes.
I think we just dropped her a second. Let's wait a second to get how she comes back again.
I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm not sure what's wrong with my internet. Let me get back on. Bye.
Okay.
So I would recommend that you all have a solid strategy going into those commission meetings. We're making that request. So if you don't have 3 or more votes, I would not go to your council. I would go straight to your finance director and make that request and see if your city has a finance advisory committee and speak at one of those meetings first. And then your last question, Sarah Leonardi and I, remember once upon a time when we had a government that was investing in low income communities with the amazing project called Justice 40, where that is where that solar initiative was going to be piloted for our schools in Broward County. Unfortunately, we know the drama. Those funds have frozen. And I think that is on pause right now. But I do believe, Scott, I will go and send this information to you. There is a school right now that they are looking to implement that as early as in 2026. I have to get that name for you. I believe it's in Pompano. But as they're making those upgrades and painting, they're also implementing energy efficiency building standard codes. And the name of the school slipping my mind right now, but I do remember they have Broward County has also, was it 3 or 4 buses in their fleet that's electric. And that was a big win for them. And that was the brainchild of Sarah Leonardi as well. So that's unfortunately, I think the acceleration of solar and school gardens and all of that stuff is stopping as of right now because of those Justice $40 have either been rolled back or frozen.
Was that at the federal level or that was state level?
That's the federal level.
Okay.
I think
don't
that
know
would,
program. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that would have passed on a state level, being that our governor still does not acknowledge climate change is a thing.
All right. All right. Okay, fantastic. Looking for more questions. Julie, did you get all your questions answered? Did you want to ask another part? I know at the end you were asking some things about
No,
equity.
there's one. Sorry, Scott, there's one thing I forgot to ask about the schools. So, Heal the Planet is an amazing organization that really wants to bring environmental programming into the schools, and they have the funding to do that. I will put you all in contact with Vanessa if that's something you all want to do. They're doing a programming in Coral Springs. They're doing in Sunrise. I think some areas in Fort Lauderdale. Um, so I will put you in contact with Heal the Planet. Have you all heard of them? Okay, no?
Jody,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So
I
they
have
What's it called?
Heal the Planet.
Heal the Planet.
Oh,
Heal the
Heal
Planet.
the Planet. Okay.
But they're just dying to get into the schools to do some great work. So I'll be sure to connect you as well, Scott, after this call.
Great. Thank you. Denise, yeah, your hand up.
Oh, always so many questions, but I guess one of my questions is, and I should know this, but would there be any savings to a school if they did implement solar without, federal support?
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's a matter of our school board seeing it as an investment.
But I mean, would they save money at this point, or do we know that? Like, I mean, because as you talked about, you're looking for things that provide cost savings that doesn't require, a lot of support. I mean, to me, it just seems so natural, but I mean, obviously, even though it's a good thing, if they're tight on money, I'm just curious. I should know
You're
this, but I don't know.
You're right. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that. I would call for an audit just to see electrical bills. My first thing is call an audit, then run a pilot program. We're going to do a pilot program at one of the largest schools that uses the most electricity and say, let's do a comparison of their electrical bill from the school year of 2025 to 2026 in comparison to when they have solar from 27 to 28. And that's how I would make that argument. But the first thing is you have to invest in solar for that school and make sure it can generate the amount of electricity that is needed. So that is where the hiccup is. Who's going to pay for the solar? Who's going to volunteer to be the pilot? And can yeah, and who's going to agree to that? You know what I mean?
That's
So,
not happening now, correct?
no, it's not happening now.
Okay. And then FPNL, I know, does some support programs like,
Hmm.
solar, but they haven't done that in any of our schools. Is
They
that
They
right?
have
have
not
some
done.
they have some pilots from a really long time ago, but
Okay.
none of them were like rooftop solar. None of them were very big.
Okay.
We have one of them, but they're tiny little arrays.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
There are
And then
six.
obviously in hurricanes, having some backup power always is good, but that's bigger than, okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
No
I don't know
worries.
if Jody, I know Susan put a comment, Denise, in the chat there about, and she may have some ideas about return on investment on the solar projects at schools. I mean, I know I'm a member of Solar United, but sort of dealing at the house level, not at, not scaling up to schools. So I don't know what that's like for the funding. The district, obviously, as Nancy's suggesting here, you got to have some money up front to pay for those. Now,
Hmm.
up until this point with the feds, you could get some of that. They even instituted that direct pay program, and that may be good. I don't know. Maybe Susan knows. That still may be functioning till the end of this year or something. I'm not sure. We'd have to ask Solar United, but maybe that if you could get some of that cost defrayed, maybe the school board will be okay with some of that. I don't know. Julie, you got your hand up.
Yeah, couple of things. One about direct pay. I'm no expert at this at all, but I kind of looked into this to talk to the school board green advisory about, and all the funds frozen. There's funds that might be available until 2032. It's complicated, but I think people. What I think? I think people are so discouraged they're not even looking, and the school board is, you know, they're running short of funds and they're losing enrollment and all that other stuff. But one of the things, and this is kind of I don't know if it's a political question or whatever, but it seems to me there's such a disparity between different schools in our county. And I'm
Yep.
wondering, Nancy, if you can help us strategize. I mean, the schools in places like Coral Springs, I live in Plantation. In Plantation, it's the tale of two cities. We've got South
Mhm.
Plantation, which is a great school, and we've got Plantation High School, where they don't have functioning water fountains. And that just doesn't seem like it should exist, but that's the reality. So, how do you have any recommendations for us or strategies for how to address the disparities? I mean, it's it's just maddening to me.
Absolutely. So we were facing some disparities in some of our schools that were being treated unfairly. When we looked to the West, we saw that those schools got everything and everything they wanted, anything and everything they wanted, right? From the PTA getting $10,000 and they're telling teachers, hey, we need to spend this $10,000 before the school year ends. And then on the other side, the east side of our city, we were still trying to get a functioning playground that I advocated for and a new library. And so what we did is we hired, after the reboundary, we hired a chief education officer who goes to all the all of the meetings and advocates for all of our schools and makes sure that we are not an afterthought. And since we've been able to invest in this individual, this particular staff, I unofficially, officially, we've heard that all of our schools have gone up at least one letter grade. Because why? Our city staff volunteers at some of our schools that need the extra support. We have pulled together. Our city has a foundation called the Community Chest. We've been able, where the school board can't meet whatever cost it is, they are able to put funds in. We have a very active PTA. When I mean active, sometimes they're not able to be at all of the meetings, but they are very organized when it's like, hey, moms, this is what's going on in the schools. I know you're working or whatever the case may be, but you need to show up at this meeting and you need to do this. And they've been on it. And so being able to, and first of all, get your city to invest in that. Look at our go into our website and meet April Winch. She's amazing. She's come from the school board, not the school board, but from the school district. And being able, as commissioners, we are very, very invested in our schools, because if our schools are not performing well, our property taxes are going to decrease. So that is a vested interest for us. And then so we are making sure that we are advocating at any given time for our schools. And so my advice to you is hire that staffer if your city can afford it. If not, create a committee. We have a parent education committee and we have a principals education committee where we've asked them on several occasions, do a needs assessment and give it to us. We have relationships on the school board and we will make sure we pass along this needs assessment to them. And so you have to have an inside outside strategy. You all can be screaming at the top of your lungs at a school board meeting, but who are the folks in the inside who are able to move these pieces for you? And so that is my question to you, Julie. Who is advocating for your schools on the inside? I know it's supposed to be your school board member, and I'll throw a dart at mine. She doesn't care about our Coral Springs school. She only cares about Parkland, right? And so we were like, she's not going to come and save us. So we're going to have to do what we need to do for our students. And so that extra investment is super important. So I'm not sure financially where the plantation council is, but I think they can afford an education person like April.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to look for some more questions in a minute. Sam Chester, yeah, I saw in the comment he had to go off. His train was pulling into the station, so he was getting off of that. But he did make a comment that I'll pass along. I don't know if people saw that, a little bit farther up in the chat. I don't know if you know that he's involved with a self-help credit union here in South Florida. And he was offering to give a workshop for people because he runs into financial issues with people financing solar and
Mhm.
other things. So he was offering to do that in the future for us. Or if there's another, Susan and Climate Reality may like to have him, if he hasn't done a presentation for that already, talk about those kinds of things. But just a suggestion to keep that in mind for any kind of future conversations about, possibly even schools funding some of these projects. They maybe want to get involved with that through the self-help credit union. And again, there's a way to push off some of those or initial costs, and then you can somehow pay for your electric bill through the financing. Maybe that's the future way to go with some of this if federal money is going to disappear for these kinds of things. Um, Nancy, I've got a question for you. You're such a passionate advocate for obviously the schools now, as well as this environmental connection. How your biography you were talking about, I know it pointed out, you were, I guess, maybe the school president when you're in high school with local school government. At
Yes.
what point did you get involved with environmental work, and how did that become such a part of what you're doing now?
Oh, environmental work has always been a part of my life. I come from a family of farmers from the beautiful island of Haiti. So my paternal and maternal grandmother were both farmers. My dad was a farmer too before he migrated to this country. So had a strong admiration for the land. We were taught at a very young age to steward the land. It's a nexus. We respect the land, and based on their religious practices, being able to respect the land is something that was very, very, very important to them. And so that is something that was passed on to myself, my siblings, and my cousins, my extended family. We've even spent summers on the farm and doing all of the great things more than I would have liked. No one wants to spend their summer
Right,
vacation
right,
on a farm, but that was what that was.
right.
But based on that, I just always remember the parables, the stories, and the strong appreciation that my family has always had for the environment. My mom would always say, "What is wrong with this child? She's always digging a hole somewhere and trying to figure out what is growing where and what leaf is what." Our family is very big into natural remedies and herbal medicine. And so this is something that has always been a part of my life. And then when the advocacy aspect of my life triggered during 2010, right after the earthquake and the cholera outbreak. And so my advocacy piece and making sure that the UN was held accountable because they brought cholera to Haiti, et cetera. And that is where an advocate was born, essentially. So.
Thank you for that. And then how did that translate to, being wanting to do this in Coral Springs, becoming sort of, I don't know if there's any, you talked about some of your relationships, school board members and that sort of thing. How did that emerge in your campaigning, or just sort of when you took leadership there, that
Yeah, I saw something missing in my city. I was away for a little while. I was an expat overseas. I came home to vote for Hillary, um and I stayed and I got involved on electoral campaigns, and then realized that the representation that I had in my city were there since I was in high school, and that wasn't good. And so when the opportunity presented itself at the time, the former mayor Skip Campbell passed away. They were trying to reappoint a former mayor, and I was just like, this is not right. We should have an election. The people need to decide, and we shouldn't be recycling politicians. And so I said, what the heck? I have nothing to lose. I jumped in the race, did not win the first time around in 2019, but when I ran again in 2020, I won, and then the rest was history. But I actually started off on the Broward County Soil, Water, and Conservation District, which is no longer an entity because our governor has taken away all of our soil and water boards across the state. But that is where my local elected um, title, well, my act of service started basically from 2017 on.
Okay, fantastic. Now I like your tale of two recycling types here in your presentation. And initially you're talking about some of the programs that you're well within recycling in the city, and now what the recycling mayors is maybe not such a good thing.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Not against it though, but sometimes you need diversity, right? You need
Exactly. You need some
wisdom, we need
fresh.
young, we need new perspectives, and I just didn't think at the time that was those candidates were right for the city at that moment.
Appreciate that. Thank you. No, it's very interesting. You also mentioned the Sawgrass Middle School, the nature center
Mhm.
there, and some of these other things. So that's great that they involved in. I mean, is that sort of the city is working with them on this curriculum you mentioned, or how you got sort of
Yes and no,
there? Okay.
indirectly. Indirectly, because we help manage the Sawgrass Nature Center, right? And the land, and we are creating that Everglades loop. And so it just made sense for that natural partnership to happen. Our students take field trips to the Everglades all the time. And for folks who don't know, like our backyard is the Everglades. And so we want to make sure that this is a teaching moment so at a very young age, if our students are appreciating the Everglades and the different species that are coming out of the Everglades, they're less likely to harm the Everglades. And so we see it as an investment in our youth, investment in our city, and investment in the quality of life for the residents here in Coral Springs.
Fantastic. Do we have more questions from our audience? I don't know. Aaron, have you know who Aaron is here? I don't know if that's someone who's been in with on on our group before, but I'll offer that and Angela if they have any questions or comments. If you want to add something in there, please, let us know. Um, don't see Eileen was on from Eustis, interestingly enough. I know she's been on a couple of our calls before. Good to see her. Um, do
Yeah,
you have
I will say this though. I'm trying to get it all in when I can because this is it for me. So I'm trying to make sure the next young person or a woman or whomever decides to run, that they will carry on this legacy. And it's just super important. Sometimes when you need to get off the exit, like you've contributed all you can,
okay?
and then just be like, bye bye, here you go. So I had a comment earlier where someone's like, how do you have all this energy and passion? I was like, nope, I'm running out of steam. It's quickly coming to an end. So I have 3 more years left in my second
Okay.
term, and I don't plan on intending coming back.
Do you talking about, ask Susan for a minute. Do you take Susan in student interns in your
I
work?
do. I do. I have an amazing shadowing program, and a lot of them want to be
Oh,
environmental scientists, and so,
oh,
or
fantastic.
elected officials. And I think it's super important, not to be biased, but I present these opportunities to Black and Brown students who don't necessarily see themselves um, in these type of industries, et cetera. So I really want to share that with them, especially young girls who the statistic is you have to ask a woman 7 times to run for office, opposed to a man, you only have to ask him once. And so I want to make sure that one, our girls can see themselves in leadership, and two, folks, individuals of color can see that you can have a career in environmental sciences and it's lucrative and it is important, and you don't make all the money, but you wake up feeling good about yourself. And that's
Can
what
I
matters.
can
Sure.
I ask, I have two questions. One, um, how would because at my school we're a countywide magnet, so we have um students that live in Coral Springs. So for your city in particular, how would they find out about that internship program?
Usually it's students who come in who shadow me, they will say, I'm really interested in what you do. I'll have an interview process with them, 2 or 3 students, and then whoever sells themselves the best will who are able to show that they'll be committed to this. I give them the opportunity. I give them a $500 stipend. It's not much, but it's an opportunity to be with me, work on projects, and help me prepare for all of the meetings that you listed, Scott. So those take time, briefing, reading, all of the things, and so they'll see what it takes to be an elected official.
Do you know of, and my follow-up question is whether you know of any other cities that have similar programs?
I do not. The shadowing program started with me.
Oh,
And I know the mayor has a mayor for the day program that our staff has tried to integrate together. But I take this role very seriously. I have shadows maybe 2 or 3 times a month who are just literally my shadow. They're at everything, they're helping me prep, and they're asking all of the hard questions.
Jody, I wonder, if you and Nancy, you can kind of think about this. If if someone went to another, you know, mayor, vice mayor, or commissioner in another city and said, "Look, I'd love to shadow you for the summer." I guess they first of all they have to figure out, who the right person would be to shadow that they'd like to have as a model for those kinds of things. But Jody, what do you think? If your student just decided, well, if I live in Pembroke Pines, maybe I should find a commissioner offer to shadow them for the summer, maybe that would be an experience. What do you think?
Julie and I have talked a lot about how, because part of what my students have to do is for their senior project is to try to make a change in a policy or a practice. And so a lot of them live in Plantation or they choose to go to the city of Plantation because that's where the school is. But there's no formal process. And so we've wrestled a lot with what's the best way for kids to be heard and to make a difference. So I don't know. But I think um, finding the right person is key. But that's not a very satisfying answer in the long term because that's that depends on you being lucky enough to have someone like Nancy around, and it's not a formal process that will live on beyond those particular individuals. So that's why I was excited if there was a formal process, then that might be something we could take and like present to someone else.
Julie, you've got your hand up there. Oh, get off. We can't hear you. You got to take yourself
Yeah,
off
so
mute.
sorry. I'm so inspired that Nancy's doing this with students because I I think the students actually understand way, and many of the ones I've interacted with, way more than the adults do, the environmental problems, and they're very inspiring. The city of Hollywood is now appointing a student rep to their sustainability board. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Um, I've asked on our mid committee, I've asked them to do that. Like many things, you ask a bunch of times and you hear no, and then finally you hear yes. So I've only asked a couple of times so far. But knowing that and I asked for a student ambassador program, which wouldn't necessarily just be environment, but local government, other ways they could interact. But now that I know that Nancy's doing this in Coral Springs, I am not at all reluctant to say, hey, Coral Springs is doing it. Nancy Metayer Bowen's doing it. Why can't we? I mean, I don't, so that I think it's really important to give our students opportunities. They've got good ideas.
And I
Yeah,
also want to say
I think
Denise is
it's
doing it as well. Denise Horland.
um, great. I didn't know that. I know she's really active on environmental issues, but I did not know that she had any students working with her?
She adopts mentees, and I
Mm-hmm.
know one for sure, Ashley Wong, who also has become one of my mentees.
Mm-hmm.
But she does mentor young girls, especially making them, exposing them to a variety of issues. And so I would work closely with Denise to see how you can formalize or implement that program. That would be my first starting point, and Jennifer Andreu
Yeah,
implantation.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, those would be my go-to people. Thank you.
Great. Jody, do you have a comment or something? I didn't know. Okay, great. Any more comments or questions? We're kind of running, got a couple more minutes here. Susan.
Real quick, I just want to ask Nancy two things. Number one, from where in Haiti is your family? Which district or which city? And also, if you're not going to come back and be a commissioner or vice mayor again, which saddens me personally, what are you willing to share with us what you're thinking your next step would be, and how can you bring us along with you?
Absolutely. I've been poached for higher office. I just don't know where yet. So I'm termed up, and in order for me to stay or run for mayor, I would have to sit out for a year. And I was just like, oh, I don't think I want to do that. So, depending on how the cards fall or the chips fall, some folks may be moving around in the legislature, and then an opportunity will present itself. So
Great,
that's
exciting.
where that is. And then you had asked another question. I'm sorry.
In
I missed it.
Haiti, where is your
What?
family from? Which part of Haiti?
My parents are from Gonaïve, a small town called Ansouge. It's
Uh-huh.
not too far from Port-au-Paix, so folks from Haiti will know very well. They'll know the Metayer last name. We're well known farmers in that area, and
Awesome.
stewardess. And my mom's from Port-au-Prince, an area called Penchonville.
I have a very good friend in Pétionville, Pèlerin.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're kind of running at the hour now, and I want to show everybody one thing before we go. But before I do that, Nancy, it's been a delight to have you on here, and I think there was
Thank you
some
so
great,
much.
great, so much. Yeah, indeed, echo Jody's sentiments here. Thank you so much for all your presentation, our interaction here, and for doing what you do over in Coral Springs. It's really an inspiration, I think, to us. And I love the fact that we got some folks here thinking how can they plug their students into something like this. So that's wonderful. So thank you.
Absolutely. And I want to leave this with you all. Illinois Shine, a project in Chicago, they were working on a solar project as well. I was working on that as well. They got very, very far. So I would suggest that you all mimic their strategy with getting solar in their schools, and converting their fleets. So it's called Illinois Shines.
Illinois Shine, good thing. I guess this is the time of year for them to actually have some good sun there. I mean, you don't want to
Mhm.
do that in the winter time there, but anyway, I'm going to show you quickly before we go. Thank you for that reference, and please do if you've got any references at all to send me, please do, and we'll make sure that I send a link to recording of this session and some notes to everyone afterwards. Before we go, I just wanted to show everybody. Is anybody on this call heard of this Sunday before?
No.
Susan, you haven't heard, this is sort of a national thing. Third Act is part of this, but it's a whole day coming up September 21st this coming fall. It's kind of like the equivalent of Earth Day, but now we're gonna, McKibben has kind of been involved in the startup of this, and they're trying to recruit institutions, and I wanted to show it to you guys because I was thinking that we might have someone on in a month of people around during the summer. I'm not sure, but if we have schools, for example, of South Plantation wanted to do a Sunday, they might have an exhibit at the school to show off some solar stuff or what have people to talk a little bit about solar, and they can be part of this nationwide event. It may be worldwide, I'm not sure, but at least in the US, a lot of people are going to be promote this. So just by a show of hands, there's, virtual hands, is that be of interest to somebody on this call to sort of see a presentation about that? Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you. We'll stop sharing, and then I'm gonna let you guys know if we can round up a couple people to present about that. Denise, did you have your hand up? Was that that was agreeing with being part
That
of
was
that?
agreeing.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks everybody, and I'll try to post this recording of this in case you've got some colleagues that want to watch and get up to speed on some of the things going on in Coral Springs that Nancy's involved with. So I appreciate you joining us, and we'll probably if we do something in the summer on this Sunday, we might do that in June. Otherwise, we probably will take a couple months off from our Florida Climate Educator Network and let everybody have a nice summer vacation, and we'll meet again soon. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Good
Thank you
night.
for having
Thank
me.
you.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.